Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My dear friends, my name is Aravind. I'm here to discuss a fantastic concept called experience, or the whole topic is revolving around something called designing experience. Why not talk about it now? And why is it important now? That these are the questions which really made me think we should definitely have a concept and we should definitely have a thought process around this because the whole of world is moving towards experience economy than anything else. When we buy products, when we buy any kind of products, the so-called physical products or any kind of services, it's not just only the product which you take, but the experience which comes along with it. That is something which really changes our perspectives. That's why we become ardent customers or loyal. Customer loyalty goes up. And this particular session is all about that. So the first and foremost thing about doing this is basically, let me just share my screen now. We need to understand something. Experience is not just a choice. It's not just an option we give. It's a conscious choice which we do it to ensure the other person becomes your brand, loyal customer, or he becomes your promoter. And when you're looking at a concept called net promoter score and all those things, we look at something called experience. And my session or my few wisdom I just want to share or the insights, it's purely driven by the experience I had through my mentors and coaches. So yes, employee experience is actually, if you look at the whole thing, it's a worker's perception. It's purely based on the perception. That's something which we have to understand about the touch points which normally the company or anyone does, or is it through the organization which he gets in the organization. A person who joins the organization, when his or her onboarding is successful, or if the person is joining the organization, he feels the recruiter or the HR or his manager or the entire organization is giving him that kind of experience from the day one. He becomes a loyal, that's number one. Second thing is he starts promoting. He becomes your brand ambassador. And that's very, very important in this current generation. And that's the whole idea of designing an experience. And that's why every organization should specifically spend a lot of time in understanding the entire journey of the so-called HR programs, the talent acquisition, talent development, talent engagement, and total rewards. It's not a joke. No more something which is like something above this hygiene. It's below. That's why it is called a hygiene factor going forward. Experience is something which every organization has to be given. Organization should be given to all the candidates who touch the organization. You may select the associate, you may not select the associate or the employee, but it's very important to give him or her an experience, because whatever experience you give, he starts putting up in social media. And that's one reason every HR has to go through this thought point at this point of time. Now, so how does this journey start? There should be some starting point. And basically everything, the process, if you look at this point 1, point 2, point 3, that's where excellence starts. That's when we always say this is a process-centric organization. And for driving the design experience, definitely there should be a start, or there should be a process mechanism in place. So how does it start? First and foremost, this is just a small thought over the talent acquisition space, or the talent development or engagement and talent rewards and recognition as well. Pre-employment, during the search, during the application, during the interviews. I because of the paucity of time, I may not get deep into this. But what I feel is, when you talk to a candidate, don't sell the company. Don't say that this is what it is. Tell them this is the position we are evaluating you for. Tell them the purpose, which should excite them. They should feel that, okay, if I join here, I'm going to contribute. That is the most important touching point. You make the person feel valued, respected, and appreciated. VAR is something which we should look at from the pre-employment standpoint. And when you onboard him from the day one he joins, give him the feeling that he is very, very special to our organization and he's going to contribute more to our organization purpose. And post-employee during separation also, please, my dear leaders, please understand, it is never-ending kind of thing. I think companies like McKinsey and Google's, they already have, especially my organizations also, we have cultivated the art of facilitating, enabling alumni network, because they are our social evangelist. So everywhere, if you look at experience is touched. And we as a people, we should start mapping employee experience journey, capture it, document it, and then start putting a process around it and see every time are we giving him or her a touch point which will enable him to become our promoter than detractor. So first and foremost, you design. How does the whole thing start? You design your personas. Every personas are different. Every personalities are different. Understand what kind of category of associates we are going to bring in. Laterals versus freshers, because we are talking about Generation Z. For them, everything is instant gratification. You cannot have the same kind of training programs for them. For them, MOOCs might come, but then for the other set of baby boomers or something, it might be something else. We got to think over that. Start the journey mapping. Second point, you start the journey. Okay, in terms of TA, TD, TETR, this is how the workflow is going to be. Because it is not one stop kind of thing. It's an ever evolving journey which we are looking at. Next, you map the processes 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the most important thing is under the so-called 4 programs, talent acquisition, talent development, engagement, and total rewards, you have different practices. Employer value proposition, interviews, your checklist for background check, your checklist for medical check, reference check. All these are practices. And most importantly, you got to have the journey map. And then you got to map the processes inside that. Because every process, if you tweak it properly using digital thing or anything, you are going to elevate the experience. And that is why it is important. And innovators, basically, once you map the practices and the processes, you can then re-engineer. You cannot re-engineer from anywhere and everywhere. You got to have a structured methodological approach in terms of defining the processes, practices first, and then the processes inside that. And then you start crafting experiences from that. And that is what we are looking at. And finally, measure it. When someone is coming to an organization, if you're making someone sit, the onboarding, how much time do you spend? How much does he take? Take a lot of surveys to measure it. Then you'll understand where you are really doing a great job or where you're failing to do a great job. And definitely that gap is something which we really need to fill. What does it take to create a great experience? This I have taken my insights from Deloitte. Basically, if you look at any kind of organizations, basically it revolves around the 4 or 5 things: your work, your management, your positive work environment, your growth opportunities, and the trust. Meaningful work. I'm not going to be specifically speaking like this, but I just want to make you understand. Work by itself should excite the person. He should feel that I'm contributing. As long the millennials, if you're looking at the new generations, that they want to see whether I as a whole am I contributing the organization structure, whether the work is really giving me a meaning to prove myself. The autonomy. So if you look at from an HR standpoint, I would request all of you to refer something called the job characteristics model, which talks about autonomy, feedback, task identity, and all those kind of things. Skill variety and all those things. As and task significance, the 5 factors. You got to really rework on the work and the job aspects and the levers which will make the work person feel that I am doing a great, meaningful job. I am contributing. As long that is there, things really go to the next level. Management, my dear leaders, management is very, very important in terms of the transparency, the openness they bring in. It's a performance-based organization. There we respect everyone, where there's a humanitarian approach. The management cascades the culture. The management plays a role in vitalizing and revitalizing culture, so it becomes more and more important. Positive work environment, again created by the manager or the leadership. We feel there is human approach. That is why you would have heard a lot about design thinking. Human-centered approach has to be applied in an environment where people feel that they can contribute. They are free from any kind of this one, where free from any kind of where if they speak out, there is no risk for their job, something like that. It's an open, transparent culture, and there is recognition for their work. They are rewarded and recognized. More than extrinsic, it's an intrinsic thing which has to come from the work, from the manager and the work environment. Then the contribution happens. That's where you're touching hearts more than minds. Growth opportunity. Yes, the most important. If you look at any kind of reports from the McKinseys and Deloittes and KPMGs of the world, or any of EYs and Bains, most important right now, the World Economic Forums has taught up, people are looking for growth. The intellectual simulation growth, where it can be through the manager, it can be through the peers, or anyone for that matter, through the management also. You have to, it should be the training or the work that someone is doing that should relate to his worth. and he should feel that he is contributing. And everywhere it should be self-directed learning and everything. That's where you are giving him an insane experience. Last but not the least, trust in leadership, which again comes in the positive environment. There is openness. The company believes in a greater purpose to create a mark. There is transparency and honesty in terms of policies, practices, what they preach and they do. What they preach and practice, very, very important. And the leaders inspire to take great, lofty missions and goals. The BAG, bold, hairy, audacious goals, that inspires a lot of intellectuals in the millennial space. And this is nutshell can definitely ensure the whole of experience in an organization goes up. How does this happen? If this has to happen, the previous thing has to happen. What does organization or the so-called HR leaders or the management should do? Continuously get into conversations. My dear leaders, as always said, communication is the most important tool which has been looked down, but communication is where maximum number of investment has to be done in terms of proving the making people feel valued, recognized, and appreciated. It should come from the leadership and gets cascaded to the lowest level of managership. And it has to be done on a continuous basis and should be sustained. Not that you do it only in one quarter and next quarter you don't do it. People would like to be heard. So all leaders should be putting a lot of effort in making proactive communications and constant communications. And it can be either constructive conversations also, if you want to name it. Experiment with small groups. Small things, if it's successful there, that will become word of mouth, and they will say that, okay, these people are really giving me an experience. They're listening to me. They're caring to me. They give me a lot of things where I can bring in my personal and professional things. You listen, you experiment with a small group, that group itself starts cascading or starts spreading the great news. Start then saying that I will start at some point of time. Employee voice. If you're giving listening ears, please come out with surveys, lot of a lot of experiments where people feel that, okay, their voice is heard. And it should be from the top to the bottom. It should be from the bottom to the top, not top down approach. No, here it's vice versa, wherein people should feel that, okay, I am valued. My voice is there. If I have to make a changes in a policy, people feel it. That's why the most important thing I would like to bring here is run a lot of focus group discussions. And those focus group discussions will tell you whether your policies, your practices, everything is right, whether people are really getting a great experience out of it. And that itself will give you a lot of learning for rebuilding the whole thing. It becomes a lot of learning to unlearn a lot of things and relearn and build a great culture. So that's it. So thank you. And I'm sure we all are excited to do this. And designing experience is not anymore a choice. No more and not anymore an option. It is something, a choice, which we have to do it consciously and putting a lot of heart and soul into it. That's how great experiences start. And I'm sure every leader in this session would definitely start and do something great. Thank you very much. It was great day. I could inform you a little bit what I could experience from my little bit learning. Thank you once again. Stay safe. Thank you.